India witnessed some disturbing events very recently, and that was because of not just the pollution that is there in the capital, but also the northern part of the country has basically witnessed some earthquakes. Welcome to Legacy IAS, where we are going to talk about the set of earthquakes which have taken place in the northernmost part of the country, particularly in Punjab, which is the latest one after a series of such other earthquakes similarly which have taken place in northern India. So we are going to understand why exactly the earthquakes are taking place in these regions, what is so unique about these regions, what is their connection in the geographical geological history, is there any reference to climate change as well. These all become very important for you as aspirants of the civil service examination. Understanding and developing a clear perspective on them is very essential. So in this regard, let us start our discussion here. So, as far as the turn of events are concerned, it started when the National Center for Seismology, the one which takes note of such events, such earthquakes, they reported an earthquake in Punjab's Amritsar of a magnitude of 4.1 on the Richter scale. The origin of this particular event basically took place in Nepal, from about 3 kilometers from the Silanga town of Nepal, all right, and it affected areas besides Nepal, India, as well as China. Lot of tremors were felt in the northern part of the country of India, particularly in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and some areas of western UP. The entire reason why you are witnessing earthquakes in northern part of the country is because if you look at this map as well, this particular zone, this is basically a map which shows the areas which are more susceptible to earthquakes in the country, and it kind of shows that the regions in the northernmost, the northeastern, and this here in western part and also Andaman are the ones who are very susceptible. Let's try and understand what this is all about. So scientists say that these particular region which fall in the zone 5 of the India's seismic zone, all right, they can experience earthquakes of a magnitude up to 9 on the Richter scale. This particular region includes, as I just mentioned, the northeastern parts of India, parts of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. On the western side, you have Rann of Kutch in Gujarat, some parts of northern Bihar, and down south in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Also, the national capital is one which is severely affected, and the entire contribution is because of or through the Himalayan region. Now, our geological history has been such that India has basically pushed into the Eurasian plate, and that has led to the formation of Himalayas. Himalayas are, as it is, extremely sensitive, eco-sensitive zones where every time there is a movement of such plates, there is a reaction. We need to understand that earthquake, which is basically the experience of release of this particular energy from below the earth's surface, is basically taking place on particularly the places, the boundaries where two continental plates are basically moving into each other, or continental oceanic plates for that matter. That is why we have a ring of fire, all right, which is particularly the Indo-Pacific region, which is extremely susceptible because it is known for a circum-Pacific belt. It is understood as circum-Pacific belt, where the land the plate is going down the oceanic plate, all right. So every time there is such movement and pushing together closer of these plates, either they are converging or they are diverging, every time such movement happens, there is a great possibility of earthquakes to take place. So in this particular case, as far as India is concerned, if you look at this particular border which is in red, these areas become very susceptible because these are the points where the Indian plate is basically pushing towards the Eurasian plate. We have formed the Himalayas through this particular buckling, whereby the length gets buckled up into height, and that is how we've had formation of Himalayas. Now every time this buckling happens, there is basically an earthquake which we feel. So in that regard, the reason for this particular earthquake was also similar, that we have the energy which is needed to basically move these plates is something which is generated below the earth's crust. There's a region called asthenosphere, that is where we basically have generation of these particular earthquakes, which is almost 30 to 40 kilometer in the surface of the earth. In the mantle, in the topmost part of the mantle, this particular region has so much under high amounts of temperature and pressure creates, it almost becomes like a furnace. All right, so here energy move upwards and then moves out in all directions. Due to the excessive pressure which is also there, sometimes these plates also starts breaking up. Now the energy that is generated due to the breaking of these platelets, all right, that is also another causation for these earthquakes to take place. What we also are witnessing over the years is that every year with this particular movement, this particular earth Indian continental plate is basically still subducting and still pushing towards the Eurasian plate, and such going down of the Indian plate is actually creating a loss of 5 centimeter every year. So we're basically losing a part of our own territory only because nature wants it that way. So such kind of movement is basically seen in this region that you see, which is basically understood as the Indian plate. So Indian plate is leading to the rise of this Himalayas, and the movement is basically thickening the Eurasian plate even more because the Indian plate is subducting under it. There are a lot of ministries which basically look into mapping and understanding these particular earthquakes. First, we have, as we just talked about, the National Center for Seismology, which is under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, which is actually the nodal agency by the Government of India, under the Government of India, to kind of look into and monitor earthquakes both in and around the country. Alternatively, in the event that, of course, there is such an event which is a natural disaster, you have the National Disaster Management Authority, or the NDMA, which is particularly engaged in conducting regular awareness activities through several forms of media, print, electronic, or social, in order to help prepare, let them know, sensitize them about the upcoming events that may be, and accordingly have the necessary preparedness to have the least amount of damage in these regions. So that is also, in fact, they also kind of sometimes give guidelines in terms of eco-sensitive zones, or not having construction of some areas. In fact, the organizations or tribunals like the National Green Tribunal also becomes very, very vigilant in, kind of letting eco-sensitive zones be free from too much of population or crowding. Now, it is always true that prevention is better than cure. So, earthquakes, which are basically not predictable, we can, of course, have an understanding, but we cannot say for surety that this is the place and this is the time when it's going to occur. So, we just have to be very cautious, particularly in the zones 5 and 6. All right. So, the only solution is that we can minimize the loss of life by increasing our preparedness and increasing our awareness. In this regard, in matters of awareness, a very important initiative has been taken, whereby we have Prime Minister Modi inaugurating or opening India's first earthquake memorial in Bhuj of Gujarat, which is basically known as Smriti Van. Now, Smriti Van is a unique memorial which is basically celebrating the spirit of resilience. All right, the spirit of resilience of these people, ultimately 12 of them who lost their lives in the earthquake that basically had devastating effects in Bhuj in 2001. This particular memorial basically carries the names of all those, and in that respect, it is a state-of-the-art Smriti Van Earthquake Museum. This particular museum showcases how you have the topography of Gujarat, what is so unique about it, its susceptibility to such earthquakes, what kind of rebuilding initiatives have been taken, and success stories after the disastrous Bhuj 2001 earthquake. all right, and also makes people aware of the kind of disasters which can happen in future, the kind of preparedness that we are expected to have, and accordingly move ahead. So this kind of an experience is basically done through a 5D stimulator. So technology is used so that people are basically able to relive the experience, and when they are able to relive the experience, they appreciate much better the kind of issues and difficulties people who actually experienced that particular earthquake would have faced. So, in this regard, this kind of initiative really creates a massive awareness. This is one of the several ways through which one can only be prepared to kind of face such natural disasters. In this regard, from Legacy IAS, we hope that all of you stay safe and you can spread and create this awareness by sharing this particular video with those who you want to feel them safe from the earthquake. Let us know if you like the video by pressing the like button and subscribe for more videos by Legacy IAS.